KBB Review podcast. My name is Matt Baker, and this is the next instalment of our special episodes around the KBB Review Retail and Design Awards 2026. I'd like to thank our awards podcast sponsor, Sonus Bathrooms. We're very lucky to have them on board, as between now and the event on Monday, March the 2nd at the Hilton Birmingham Metropole, we'll be bringing you even more special bonus episodes where we'll really get under the skin of the awards and celebrate the very best talent our industry has to offer. So a massive thank you to Sonus Bathrooms, as it wouldn't be possible without them. You can find out everything you need to know at sonusbathrooms.com, and I'll make sure that link is in the episode description. This month's episode is a peek behind the curtain of the awards, as we have a chat with two of the judges from our retail and business categories. Now, I say this to anyone who will listen, but the KBB Review Retail and Design Awards has the most robust judging process of any awards that I know. Think a Traitors Round Table or a Beckham family dinner. Of course, our awards are much more friendly and celebratory, but you get the idea. In today's episode, I'm happy to welcome two of the judges from our retail and business categories, co-founder and director of Rehome, Helen, Lloyd, and Mike Lloyd, managing director of Wetrooms Online. We'll find out about their approach to judging and also garner some tips on what makes a good awards entry in the process of all that. So before we get into that though, tickets are still available for the event. So if you're already thinking about attending KBB Birmingham show with your retailer or supplier, then why not go all in and join us as well for the industry's biggest party. We're going all in with our 1950s Americana theme this year for the awards. So if you've been to previous awards, you know that we try and add a little extra to the event with some surprises on the night. So for more information on that, on our awards and booking tables and seats, you can go to kbbreview.com/awards. Now, on with the show. Over to our judges then. So Helen, if we start with you, you think you give a quick introduction to who you are and what you do?
I'm Helen. I'm one of the founders of Rehome. We're a marketplace selling ex-display and pre-owned kitchens, bedrooms and bathrooms for the KBB industry. And I've been a judge. This is my third year.
Excellent. And Mike, over to you.
Yeah, so again, my name's Mike Lloyd. I'm the managing director of a company called Wetrooms Online. Historically, I had a retail showroom business, Inspired Bathrooms and Kitchens, and that's 20 years old, and Wetrooms Online is 19 years old. So we've been around in the industry for quite a long time, and I've been a judge now for the bathroom categories. This is my third year also as well.
Excellent stuff. You are obviously the judges of the business categories, so you literally have to go and get under the skin of these businesses a little bit. So I know that you guys are currently in that process at the moment as we record this, but how have you found just, initially visiting these businesses, and what's been your sort of overriding takeaway?
Well, for me, it's great to visit these new businesses because they're all very different. They all do well and they all do excellent in different ways. So getting under the skin of that and getting to the why they've been shortlisted in the first instance, but then also what's going to differentiate them as a winner it's great fun, actually. It's really good fun.
Yeah, and also we forget sometimes that this is awards that happen every year, so it's always of the year part that we always have to try and remember.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's so important to these people as well. I mean, I particularly love the new business category, the new retailer, because these people are not necessarily seasoned business people. So to see how they've tackled it, how they've done their marketing, how they've done their branding, and to see what success they've achieved in a relatively short space of time is a pleasure. You leave very happy, and I want them all to win.
Yeah, don't worry, it's always the way, isn't it? And Mike, what was your overall takeaway from the experience? Does it change from year to year?
I think the first year I judged Bathroom Showroom of the Year. The questions and answers in the original entry forms by the entrants is different to the category that I'm now judging, which is Retailer of the Year. And Retailer of the Year is the pinnacle award. It's a whole different ball game because it takes on additional kind of marking requirements. For example, we need to have financials. We need to have a sound understanding of the business. I've done research away from the business, company's house, competitors, geographical area, demographic, sales, because the difficulty is when you walk into a showroom, you're stood in their business, you stood with them, and you have to try and decipher, are they Retailer of the Year? And why are they different to a showroom which if you look at my four finalists this year, I have the highest end showroom in London and I have a trade outlet in Bath. They're very, very different. So we have to cut through all of that and identify what makes them retailer of the year. So each year is different because I think more and more people are taking time to put their entries in and becoming far more prepared and aware that we are going to knock on their door.
Yeah. So why is it important to actually go and see the businesses in person rather than, say, just look at some financials on paper and some statements? Helen, how do you do that when you walk in? Why is it so important to do that?
When we're looking at the application process, it's very flat. So it's very difficult to ascertain a business's personality, culture. They can answer the questions and in most cases, they're answered quite comprehensively and well. However, to get under the skin of the business, you get a completely different picture when you walk in. You can't judge the energy, the passion. That doesn't necessarily come across in the original application. So the original application basically is a gateway. And there's an awful lot of improvement that some businesses can make with the applications because there's a lot of people who are applying every year who potentially could have been shortlisted, but the application just didn't allow for that. That breaks my heart every year that I know there are these wonderful businesses out there, but they just haven't necessarily had the right advice with regards to completing the application process. So the ticking of the boxes is the first bit. And the second bit is where the passion and the feel for the business and the commitment to the business comes across when you walk in that door and you meet a team, you meet the owner, and you get to understand the culture. I think that's the biggest reason for going, and that's what makes the KBB Review Awards quite unique and quite special, because as judges, we do work quite hard to ensure that the right people win.
Yeah, absolutely. We always say that it's the biggest industry awards. That's not just hyperbole. We actually try and make it so, as you said, you guys work very hard, actually.
Yeah, very hard. 2 months of it.
Very hard. So, it's nothing but rigorous. So, is there any tips that you have, Mike? When you go in, what's the, it's obviously different when in person, but is there any sort of that little question that you're asked or that little thing that you think, I always do this because this is not catches people out, but it's the thing that can really separate people and give you that information that you might be looking for?
Yeah, that question is, why do you believe that you're retailer of the year? And what have you done or what are you doing that is so different to other showrooms that will put you up on that pinnacle? Because it is quite, if you look at the award winners historically, the retailer of the year, there are some seriously big players. As I say, it's very difficult and I'm asked this question from the retailers when you visit. We're not going to win because the big names are up again. Well, the big names, they enter every year, and their entries are faultless. But you have to remember, it's what have you done in the past 12 months since the last awards to this award? What have you done that is so different and so spectacular that, we can give the award to you instead of the big name players, etc. And I think and this is where the face-to-face is really, really important, because as Helen said, if you look at, and we spend a long time trawling through every single entry in the categories. And as long as we do some separate homework and look at their website, look at their reviews, because again, some really high name businesses can have some really poor reviews if they've provided poor service. So when you gather all that together and then walk into the showroom itself, that showroom has to match the documentation and the imagery that they've put forward. So, the question is, what have you done as a business to make yourselves so different that you're going to shock me with the answer? And I have been shocked. I've only done 2 out of the 4 so far. I've got 2 more next week. And of the 2, they both shock me because the advancement in technology that's being used now in bathrooms and kitchens is pretty amazing.
What's it for you, Helen, with that point of difference? I'm a journalist in the industry and I receive press releases every 5 minutes in my inbox and with brands and people telling me how different they are. And sometimes you have to sort of look through what is it actually that's different, really? When you walk into and you're judging a business, what goes through your mind? How do you sort of approach that? Of how do I find this USP? Have you got an approach to that? The killer question you might ask?
Basically, what I'm looking for is that what I've seen so far actually matches what I see when I walk in the door. So there's that feeling of sincerity and genuineness in the passion and what they say. So that's the first key thing. But One thing that sets the judging apart really is that whilst we have to look for consistency when we're visiting these showrooms, we also have to look for nuance, because every single business is different. And that's the balancing act really. And that comes from judgment as business people as to what we believe works. And then you've got that in combination with the longevity issue with regards to my category, which is new kitchen retailer. I'm looking at it from is this going to work long term? You know, it's worked for the last year, but is this enough? So yeah, there's no straight answer to that, because each one is very, very different. And you have to go with your preconceptions based on the application, absolutely. But also, and equally as important, with a very open mind and be able to ask the right questions in addition to the information you're after to get the complete vision of the business and understand the people behind the business.
Is there anything particular that is the deciding factor for you when scoring entrance? You know, it's a set criteria, it's one thing, but is there one thing that stands out? You think that's the thing I really need a good answer for, or, you know, some demonstration. What's it for you, Helen, that thing?
Okay. For me, it's about consistency. So what I'm looking at is, for a new retailer specifically, is that they've had a clear business plan from day one. They've had a clear marketing strategy across the whole of routes to market. So they've considered, for instance, you know, who their target market is, how they've gone about reaching their target market. Also some killer questions, you know, like, if you had your time again, what would you do differently? Those sorts of things. I'm really looking in the first instance for honesty and transparency. And I actually have a question at the end that says, this is your truth question, which everybody seems to really love, because they relax at that point and they just think, oh, it's okay to be honest. And genuinely, it is okay to be honest, because making mistakes and changing direction actually shows your commercial acumen and really demonstrates that you want to succeed. You're not just belligerently following a plan, even if it doesn't work, or wasting money and things like that. So I'm looking for consistency. I'm looking at customer experience, obviously, but then I'm also looking at team culture and the leadership there. I love it when other members of staff are there. So if they bring some designers in with them, you know, if it's only a small team, perhaps the whole team could be there, at least for a small portion of it, or I can go and talk to them. You know, meeting everybody who is part of that business really, really helps me make that decision. I'm looking for clear vision that's been well executed.
Excellent. And Mike, for you, what's that X factor that you look for?
Retailer of the year, it's not all boutique high street showrooms. You know, the entries, I think this year were one of the highest I've seen. And the scope of business ranges from trade counters to boutique showrooms and everything in between. You have a business with a couple of £100,000 turnover and a £40 million a year turnover business. So how do you differentiate those businesses and what is in there that is important enough for them to score? So they would have already been scored on their entry, providing that the showroom experience backs up that entry. So, for example, you've got stability of finance as retailer of the year. Are you financially stable? Have you had the past 12 months worth of stability and preparing for the next 12 months? Because it is a pretty volatile market out there at the moment. And have they put sufficient measures in place to ride the storm, as we say? Then you've got, planning. What kind of planning and performance markers is that business putting in place for their sales, for their staff, for their development and growth of in all factors and areas? Energy and ambition, sort of just how the showroom welcomes you through the door, what the experience is. I always ask for 15 minutes on my own to wander around the showroom where I'm not kind of bothered or hassled by anybody. And I'm looking for simple things like wires hanging out the ceiling, screw holes in the wall, untidy, unkept showroom. You cannot win Retailer of the Year with a messy showroom if that's what you're presenting to the public. First opinions last. Any customer that walks through the door has got to start with a smile, at least on their own face, and be greeted with a smile. And then that, whatever the customer sees and whatever the customer, when you're walking around the showroom, we see the same. And the showroom owners sometimes don't. They miss the blatantly obvious that their product, their offering, their whole business model is on show to the public. is it the best it can be? And I'm afraid not always, and sometimes very disappointing is the answer.
Given where we are in the market and the industry and how we're sort of feeling and the news that's coming through, are you enthused by what you've seen so far on your visits and through these entries of the awards? Helen, what are your thoughts?
100%. I mean, so far I've only done one visit, and that particular showroom was phenomenal. So what is great is that we've still got what I would call traditional independents coming into the market, new people, and then we've got a new breed, if you like. So people who are trying to push that envelope a little bit further and do things that little bit differently, which, you know, is a very, very brave move. There's lots of courageous new businesses starting up out there, and they believe 100% in what they're doing. And, you know, that can only be applauded. Our job as judges really is to look for that excellence. We're not in the business of fault finding, particularly apart from the obvious, like for Showroom of the Year, then obviously we're looking at the environment as well. But from the business perspective, when we're looking at them, we're looking to find that level of excellence, that level of difference. Unfortunately, because we spend time visiting them, we normally do uncover that. And I do believe 100% that we make the right decisions as judges because we are given the time to do so.
For Mike, for you, what encourages you from what you've seen so far?
The whole design of showrooms is changing. I've had the privilege to be able to visit showrooms for 20 plus years in different roles. And the whole showroom is changing. The customer demand is different. The customer's requirements, what they expect is very different with the internet, with trade counters, with high-end retail showrooms. You know, every customer is different and they're looking for something different. So showrooms have to be adaptable in many different ways. But the level of quality of design and even bay design for bathrooms, that showrooms are now, they're taking time to present the bathrooms in the highest possible way. And I think that's absolutely stunning. I mean, I know I'm going to see a couple of stunning showrooms, and I've already seen 2 so far. Even at low to mid level, the displays are different now. And the enthusiasm of the staff, because they're having brass, they're having matte black, they're having gold, they're having unusual tiles, and it enthuses the staff, and you can see that they're excited to be behind the whole thing. I think that in itself, but also my question would always be to the showroom, what have you done in the last 12 months? I don't care the previous year, and I don't really care what's going on after the 12 months. It's what have you done in the last 12 months that is so unique and different that you're gonna shock me, as I said earlier. And I haven't been let down yet, because each showroom in their own right has come up with something different that they're now using to make their own path forward. And yeah, it's really, really encouraging.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, listen, thanks for your time today, and also thanks for your time doing the whole judging. As we said, it's a lot of work. So I hope you guys get stuff out of it. We'll see you at the awards as well, and we'll also see you at KB. Are you at KB Birmingham? I'm sure you're there, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Yep. So we'll catch up then. For the big party. So thanks for your time today, Mike Lloyd and Helen Lloyd.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
And that's it for another episode. Thanks to our judges and also to Sonus Bathrooms for being our awards podcast sponsor. Take this as yet another reminder that if you want to be there in the room with us at the event, you can book your tickets at kbbreview.com/awards. Join me next month when we'll be at the Design Categories Judging Day, where I'll be bringing you a flavour of what happens on these days and what our judges think about this year's design finalists. See you then.